Tuesday, December 17th, 2019. Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Neal?
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Here.
Mr. Singer?
Here.
Mr. Hennings?
Yeah, here.
Mr. Ober?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sanford,
We'll get it right.
I.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to start off with student achievement. I believe I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Glykoff, who's going to do another handoff.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Neal. This month we highlight athletics, and I ask Mr. Verba, our athletic director, to come forward. He's got a few kind of highlights from the fall season to talk about and share with us. Mr. Verba.
Thanks for having me.
Cheated.
The first thing we had a really big accomplishment was Jane Walls was named 2019 Ohio Varsity Player of the Year, and she also had a signing day with Bowling Green State University. Jaden and her sister both were outstanding athletes here. Thank the parents at the signing ceremony for making Brooklyn the school choice, because those girls could have gone somewhere else to pursue their athletic career, but they stayed here and did very well. And Jaden was great at the signing ceremony, did a great job handling herself in front of a big crowd, and it was a fun day for all. Second was our athletic selections for the fall. I passed these out. We had numerous first team, second teams, and honorable mention athletes from the CBC, our new conference. The procedure that the coaches had to go through was new to them all, and the coaches came through and got their kids in, and we're very proud of their accomplishments. Some highlights. I passed out a sheet. If you need one, I can come and get you one. We have our academic honors. Our kids this fall were outstanding in not only receiving academic honors for being a scholar athlete, which was 3.0 to a 3.5, 4.9999, and then a 3.5 and up. We had also, since it was a new conference, we did not have the PAC selections. We had the CVC. In order to be a CVC all-academic athlete, you had to have a 3.25 cumulative GPA and a 2-year varsity letter winner. So a lot of our freshmen and sophomores were not able to, well, the sophomores could, but the freshmen were not eligible because they were not a 2-year varsity letter winner. We did some statistics today. 68 high school athletes out of 113 earned higher than a 3.0 in the first quarter, so that was for 60%. 28 middle school athletes out of 38 earned higher than a 3.0 in the first quarter, which was 74%. And 94 high school / middle school athletes out of 151 earned higher than a 3.0 in the first quarter, which was 65%. So our kids did very well. Our athletes did very well academically. The attendance at site tables, we did not have many kids attending, and the ones that did attend did a great job keeping their grades up. And then last but not least, we had 18 out of 113 received CVC all academic honors, which was 16% of our athletes in the high school. The team GPA challenge was big to do. The girls soccer team defeated the boys soccer team, who were last year's fall winners was very close. I think the boys had like a 3.5 and the girls had a 3.609 team GPA. We had our senior athletes finish up their fall careers, and the banner that we have will be outside the gym shortly, hopefully when we come back from break. We also had 11 King of the Week winners, 9 CVC Players of the Week, thanks to our coaches promoting their athletes for their outstanding accomplishments each week. And I also would at this time like to thank outgoing board members Rocky Neal and Bob Hennings for their hard work over their tenure for Brooklyn Athletics and the Brooklyn City Schools. Personally appreciate your honesty, advice, and support. Thank you.
Question. Okay. Mr. Verba, how do you like the conference? How do you think we fit?
22 teams. So when we get to our meetings, it's hard to please 21 other people. Different schools have different agendas. Last year, we were invited to the meetings, and I was trying to find out some of the synergy at different groups, and I think I've got a better grasp on that now. I think they do a great job promoting our kids. There's a lot of activities that our kids are able to go to. We just had, one of the things that we did take our kids to was a leadership conference. We took, I think it was 5 boys, 5 girls.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was. And they spent a whole day, motivational speaker, the kids loved it, still talking about it. Hopefully they're gonna follow that up, that's gonna be a yearly thing. But they do a great job promoting the kids and offer a ton of programs, much more than our conference last year. I think from a coach's standpoint, the officiating so far has been a lot better for the most part. We're getting a higher quality official at most of our games. And, you know, the only thing that's hard on us is that we can't charge for middle school athletics. So we lose a chunk of our revenue that we had last year. So that's a little struggle. We brought it up at the last meeting, and that was a kind of a hot topic that was thrown out because they're talking about actually raising the ticket prices to
Offset.
7 instead of 6. So they brought that up, and I said, well, you might not have to do that if you just charge a minimum amount at the middle school, and that kind of.
Went by the wayside?
Yeah, no, it was a hot topic, let's just say.
Oh,
So you know, it's hard, when you have 22 schools, different schools have different issues. And, you know, it's gonna be brought up again. But I would say it's going well, it's just a lot, it's a big conference.
Anybody else? Questions? Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Verba. He's done a real nice job of when the transition to CVC. I agree with his sentiments. One of the reasons why I really chose to go there was the opportunities beyond athletics, and they really do. We have a lot more opportunities for our kids. So I want to just one of the things that he showed up there, and he kind of went over it very quickly, was those grade point averages with those kids who are involved. You know, it kind of confirms a lot of the things that I've said and we talk about is we want our kids involved in school, whether it's athletics, whether it's extracurriculars, whether it's clubs. There's a lot of research that will show those involved kids that their grade point averages are going to go up. So, you know, that is great, and we want to encourage that. But we just want to encourage our kids just to be involved, just to do stuff at school and be involved beyond just the classroom. So.
And it's carried over to right now, our state tables, we actually have one athlete that has to attend, and we have 3 that are, I actually, 3 or 4 that I put on. So we have a very small number of study table kids right now. So it seems to have carried over now. The big test would be once second quarter grades become finalized, how that's gonna affect them. But I'm hoping that the coaches and the kids are aware of what the grades are by this point, so.
So you feel it's been worth our time to go with the study tables?
Yes, I think it has.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. River.
We're gonna go on to comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the plan agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium and state his, her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had an opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Anybody?
Bless you.
Mr. Gary, go ahead. I thought you were gonna take a day off.
In honor, you know, I had to bring books this
You're
time.
good.
But, well, thank you for allowing this fabulous time to speak. Mr. Neal, it's been a pleasure having you as president with
I'll
all
be
the
around.
bantering we have back and forth. And good luck to everyone in the audience that's gonna be filling their shoes. I just wanted to go over the last meeting. Since then, I've had a meeting with Dr. Glykoff and Mr. Wingler, the principal of the school, of the high school. They're doing everything they can to help this one individual maintain their political speech to themselves. But unfortunately, as of yesterday, which we didn't even start a new week, and I'm gonna call this person out, and if this person wants to debate me publicly, I am more than willing to stand in front of a crowd of peers and debate this teacher on the merits of English 2. It's Mr. Kelbers, 10th grade English teacher. He has done a fantastic job of intimidating and coercing my son not to speak up in his class. He has been instructed by administration to, if he feels uncomfortable, to leave his class. Therefore, he doesn't, because he's a very polite child. That's the way I've raised him. God help me. But I just want to say that English Language 2, according to the state standards that we reviewed with Dr. Glykoff and Mr. Wingler, there is no political speech. I've got the copy I brought last meeting. I read it again. There is no political speech in English Language 2. Therefore, I would elevate this to the board and the new board to address this teacher in some type of administrative policy procedure to let them know that their job is on the line. Because unfortunately, my son has no choices. He has to sit in this gentleman's class. He's already pulled out of one of the classes because Michael didn't feel comfortable being videotaped. Now we're making an issue of, he doesn't even ask for his accommodations for his Chromebook because it's been such an issue. So I just wanted to go over something that Mr. Kelber brought up in class, and if I may, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
As long as it doesn't become personal.
It's not personal.
Okay.
There was a talk of the Federalist Papers. In this subject, the history, social studies, and English 2 curriculums all kind of blend together. They brought up the anti-federalist movement, which there wasn't any. This is the papers right here. You can all go to this. I don't know if they're in this library, but you can request a copy from the public library. And the one that I found that talked about, and we've changed this, that capitalism is evil. Capitalism is not evil. What the interpretation that I read, and I showed my child, is it was talking about commerce between us and Great Britain. And it was evil because the King of England was not treating us fairly. And at the very end of that whole, it's number, let me tell you the index if anyone decides to read it. It's number 30, I believe. No, I'm sorry, it's number 22. The same subject continued. Number 22 on page 131 of the Federalist Papers. At the very end of that chapter, it's a very profound statement. It says, however, gross a heresy it may be to maintain that a party to a compact has a right to revoke that compact, the doctrine itself has had respectable advocates. The possibility of a question of this nature proves the necessity of laying the foundations of our national government deeper than in the mere sanctions of delegated authority. The fabric of American empire ought to rest on a solid basis of the consent of the people. The streams of national power ought to flow immediately from that pure original fountain of all legitimate authority, from us, the people. It was never brought up. It was just a debate between people that wanted the Constitution, people that didn't want the Constitution. The other thing that was brought up after the meeting Monday was the fact that this individual feels that it's pertinent to every day come in and tell the kids his personal opinion. Well, there are several documents that I would like to draw your attention to. This document is a treaty with the Ukraine on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters. It's a presidential doctrine. 106 Congress ratified it. It's treaty doc number 106-16. This was signed into law under the William Clinton presidency. And it basically states that we have an agreement between the United States and the Ukraine to investigate corruption. This all relates to the fact that this person wants our president impeached. And I would caution this person not to go there. And upon the
Is this the
review.
opinion you're speaking of? I was asking, when you say that he gives his opinion, do you have an example of him actually?
Oh yeah, he walks in the morning when he's talking about need to knows and says, and I don't want this to be personal, but she asked, that our president should be impeached for what he's done. Okay, well, if it had anything to do with political science, but this has to do with legal documents that we've signed and our government has signed with this country. He goes
Stop,
on to, I'm
stop.
sorry,
Anybody else want to speak?
I'm only
Anyone
gonna go
else?
for another minute.
Go ahead.
The other document that I wanted to bring up is the executive review of the U.S. Department of Justice, the Office of Inspector General, the Honorable Michael Horowitz. In his report, it shows a clear and concise connection between the prior administrations, not just the last one, but prior to that, several administrations, the corruption that has gone on in this particular country. So I wish that if he decides to bring up topics of discussion for need to know, that my son, who reads these at home, would be able and willing to share this with his class. Because we are trying to make and create individuals that are critical thinkers. Well, you can't be a critical thinker if your teacher is telling you what to think.
Agree.
So, and with that, I just wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for your time. And these are all public docs. So, and
You've said you sat down with Mr. Winkler
yes, and
Mr.
Dr. Glykoff.
Dr. Glykoff.
I'd like an opportunity to have administration take a closer look at this, because there's some new things that
Right.
Mr. Changari brought up tonight that he did not
Yes.
share with us the other
I just
day.
don't want, I just don't want to let this thing simmer.
No, it's
All
not.
right?
We're fine.
So, as long as we're working together.
Yeah,
taking
we
care
are.
of it.
Yeah,
All right.
that's why I
That's all
brought
I
it up in the
wanna know.
beginning.
All right.
Because this is the second meeting we're discussing this now.
Correct.
So that's why I think something needs to be done, because
Well,
this is
just
the
the-
second meeting, we had to bring this up and discuss it and talk about it.
Well, my only thought would be is I tried to reach out to members of the bargaining group to see if that individual or individuals could address this teacher, and I did mention that in passing conversations with Dr. Glykoff and Principal Wengler. I enjoy what he's teaching if he sticks to the curriculum.
All right.
Other than that, whether we like the person or not,
So be it.
so be it. So
All
God
right,
bless you.
appreciate it. Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome.
So you guys will just continue your conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Fine with me. Anybody else? We're gonna move on to the superintendent's report. We're gonna go on to Dr. Glykoff.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Pretty brief report tonight, just a couple things I wanted to share. First of all, just wanted to highlight again something that's been going on in Mr. Hulko's class. His journalism class, online school newspaper. If you haven't already, I implore you to try to take a look and go to the link. It's almost like a continuous feed now where the students are adding on different articles. They're highlighting athletics, things that are happening. One of the most recent ones was the debate club, the student activities. It's really nice. And as I've talked to you and I've told Mr. Hulko this, I love this because it's authentic. It's authentic learning. Kids have a real audience. It's not only just Brooklyn, it's beyond. And in talking with a couple of the kids who are involved in it, one of the things they said, it's great because we can share kind of the school spirit beyond our doors.
Right.
And they're sharing it with other first-ring schools. So it's really kind of a great opportunity, but I really wanted to highlight this because I think it's a real awesome thing.
Wouldn't be bad to try and hook up with some alumni.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because they are looking for good articles to continue with.
Yeah.
Just yesterday morning, we had a great concert here. We had about 30 or so seniors and community members who came. It was a wonderful opportunity. We had our high school just performed, a chorale, the choir, the band. It was a great way of giving back. We had an opportunity to go over to the senior center. We thought, let's have a home game. So we've invited them in on. So we had some coffee and some hot chocolate and cookies ahead of time. So I think it's something we want to really try to build a tradition here in doing that. Support our schools. The spaghetti dinner. As I look at that, January 25th, 2020. But seeing that we're only going to have a couple of meetings before that, I think it's important to really kind of put that out there. Big event. It's a great event. It's the main fundraiser for the Support Our Schools Levy Committee, so I wanted to kind of advertise that. We've gotten a lot of that out. We're talking with our staff right now about trying to get our volunteers and so forth, but here's just a couple of the pictures from last year on that. Obviously, great food, door prizes, student entertainment, and if anybody needs a ticket, I've got tickets, so don't buy them for other people. So we've all got the other ones there too, so.
Where's the chili cook-off?
That's not here, but we're looking at that
You'll
as
be
well.
setting it up.
So, and we've got a job for you, Mr. Hennings. So, the last piece I'm going to ask Mrs. Kalish to come forward with, and that's something that's on your agenda tonight, and that was the Reading Achievement Plan. So I wanted her just to kind of talk about it because it's something that
What on earth is going on?
you're obviously going to have approval of tonight.
Good evening. So, I know that Mrs. Sparchak she sits on the curriculum committee, and so we meet fairly regularly to talk about some of the areas that we're focusing on. And if you remember, last year we became part of the Striving Readers Grant, which was a state grant that we applied and gained access to. And with that, we had to create what's called a local literacy plan. And that plan is comprehensive in looking at current data, past data, particularly in reading, but in other areas as well. And then developing a plan to move the district forward in terms of what kind of professional development are we going to use, how are we going to target that, and so on. With that, we've put in place our professional development with letters. And you know that's a 2-year process, this year being the first year we're engaged in that in grades K through 8, and that will continue through next year. The reason that we determined that that was an area of focus was based on, partially on some of this data, where early literacy was found to be a significant concern and a gap existed in our early literacy development and understanding in terms of classroom instruction. We need more focus on phonics, phonemic awareness, word study in the upper grades. And so with that, we developed that local literacy plan. As part of that, when we look at our report card, we know that we're held accountable for those grades on that report card. And the Department of Education determined that as part of continuous improvement, districts who did not show growth over 2 years, 2 consecutive report card years, meaning that they earned a C or better on the report card, and 60% or better of their students were proficient on a 3rd grade test. If the districts did not meet both of those criteria, they're required to write a reading achievement plan, which is actually a mirror of the local literacy plan that we've already done. So we had our work done. Each year we revisit that local literacy plan, update it, and resubmit it to the Department of Education. So what you have in front of you is literally a copy of the local literacy plan that we updated this school year to reflect the things that we're doing to move our district forward in the area of literacy. And it includes all of the data that we've collected so far. It includes, I should say, some of the data we've collected so far. We have lots of data. If I put it all in here, it would be a 130-page document instead of 40. But it also includes what we're doing with our teachers in the classroom with professional development over the next year. So this goes from this year until the start of next school year, what we're doing to make gains in literacy. So I wanted to give you basically an overview. I don't want to go through page by page. We'd be here all night, and I know nobody wants to do that. But certainly I can answer questions if you have them, or I'll attempt to, and if I don't have the answer, I'll get it for you. So does the board have anything that they're curious about?
I don't think at this moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate it.
Kalish. Appreciate it. That concludes my report tonight.
All right, appreciate it. Next, we're gonna go to the treasurer's report. Mr. Hoskins?
I don't have anything other than to update the board that we're still working without a payroll specialist, and I've been much more involved in doing that as opposed to the ITC helping, because I think I have a better handle on it than just passing it off and then trying to review what they've done. So we are working on 2 payrolls ahead right now. We're working on the January 10th payroll, and we're working on the 27th payroll, because we have to finish this fiscal year up and get our W-2s in place, and then we have to be able to get all the new deductions in for the new year coming up, the FSAs and those kinds of things. So working through those issues, and it's getting a little easier, understand a little bit better,
It's like
and
anything, you repeat it.
hopefully we can get some temporary full-time help to that I can train and relieve some of that work to do the other things that are necessarily to be done. And then we have an agenda item on an agreement with the city, and I'd like to have Mr. David C. come forward and kind of explain that as the second part of my report.
Appreciate that, thank you. If you notice, resolution 6.3, I don't know if you guys have a copy of it, it's Cleveland American LLC revenue sharing agreement. David Seed is the, one of the board's attorneys. He does most of the land deals, anything to that extent. He's been doing it for probably the last 20 years, probably. So I'd like to welcome David Seed. This is a resolution that we will be voting on. This was brought to us probably
2 years ago.
18, 2 months, 2 years ago, yeah. Something that just sort of simmered, so it's something I think everybody should be educated on. We're getting re-educated on it as well, too, so. All right, Mr. David C., thanks,
Thank you.
David.
Thank you very much, and I wish best of luck to board members leaving and going.
Appreciate it.
And at the former American Greetings facility, which has been largely vacant the last few years, now some tenants have moved in. Medical Mutual's expected to move in at the beginning of the year. The school district had lost a lot of revenue, just like the city had lost revenue when American Greetings left and the property value went down. The city, in order to create economic development, to pay for their infrastructure costs, and to help the landlord, Cleveland American, which is the IRG group, and to help the school board and city, has created 2 tax incentives. One is called tax increment financing, where taxes are paid by the property owner and are diverted to 2 purposes. 1, to fully compensate the school board, and 2, for use for public improvements by the city. That's on the entire campus for the American Greetings facility. In addition, the city authorized, I think a year and a half ago, what's known as a community reinvestment area, limited to the Medical Mutual building, the former American Greetings headquarters building. And under the community reinvestment area, Medical Mutual will have a 50% tax abatement for 10 years. And the city is providing various incentives to Medical Mutual. They're giving, I think they have a tax rebate to Medical Mutual. As a result of the 50% abatement on any additional property value for Medical Mutual renovating the property, moving into the property, paying rent on the property, the school board will only get 50% of the new revenue through the normal tax collection process. So hypothetically, if we were to receive $500,000 for the normal tax collection process, we would only receive $250,000. What the city is proposing is to provide compensation for any revenue the school board does not receive as a result of the abatement in 2 ways. One way is that they're gonna share all property taxes with the school board to make up for the loss of revenue. But there are two provisions in the agreement. Those are the two ways. The city anticipates that the payroll taxes will far exceed the foregone property taxes to the school board, as we discussed 2 years ago. And if we were not to do anything, it's potentially we would receive a windfall. We would receive more revenue than we're losing from the tax abatement. So what the city is proposing is they will share 50% of the payroll taxes at the medical mutual facility, up to, with a cap, the loss of property taxes to the school board. So in my example, if we were, on account of the abatement, to not receive $250,000, the city would compensate us up to $250,000, even if sharing of 50% of the payroll taxes would arrive at a higher amount. So we're in a no worse position than if the property was fully taxable. And that's one part of the agreement. Now, the city has an extra provision in the agreement they do not expect to take place, because they expect the payroll taxes to be so much greater than the property taxes. But in the event, for some reason, that the payroll taxes were less, that they're gonna use a calculation, that same 50% of the payroll taxes, they will use that calculation to pay the school board. So I'm gonna make up an example. Let's say we were to lose $250,000 from property taxes that we would normally receive. And let's just say hypothetically that the payroll taxes were, on the entire site, were only $400,000 a year, instead of the $2.5 million the city expects. It was only $400,000. The city, under the agreement, would only share with us half of that amount, $200,000. So in the event there's a catastrophe as to a severe reduction of workforce at the property, which is not anticipated, the second provision will never occur. And likely, if it were to occur, that's an indication that the property value has declined. I mean, if they were to have 20% of the expected payroll, it means that probably they're not making much use of the property. But the city insisted upon this provision in the agreement. More than likely, what's going to occur is, as Medical Mutual moves into the property, as they complete the renovations, not this year, not in 2020, but starting in 2021, collection year 2021, the school board will receive additional property taxes in the two ways. One, through the normal tax collection process, and second, through a sharing of payroll taxes to compensate the school board for the loss of revenue on account of the abatement. So I hope I've explained this well, that so what they're asking you to do is to enter into an agreement to provide the terms of the compensation agreement.
And Polaris is in joint with this as well, too.
They will be part of this agreement also.
Correct.
I have contacted their treasurer, Mike Robinson, for their board to also approve this agreement.
Okay. And they're fine with it as far, I mean, I don't vote wise, but they're okay with it. I
I'm,
don't see why
I'm
they
not,
wouldn't be.
Mike and I have been exchanging phone calls, but they should have no problem with it because it's the same terms that you're.
Do you plan on going out there and speaking to them as well, Jim?
It's on the January agenda.
Is it there?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you guys would like him to,
I can ask Mike.
Yeah, I mean-
I'll ask Mike, yeah.
cause that just affects the Brooklyn part, but it does
Right.
affect the
Yeah,
whole
just a-
thing
yeah,
too.
Tiny bit, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause we're 47.1 and they're 2.8, but yeah,
Yeah.
it does
Okay.
enter into
Does
it.
anybody got any questions?
Yeah, David, the income taxes, will they be paid quarterly or annually?
The payment to the school board, I believe it's gonna be made annually.
That's what I believe I read.
After, was it Rita, well, that collects the taxes and usually, and then they'll have a reconciliation and make an annual payment. We also have to calculate every year the foregone property taxes.
I believe it's March is the payment date.
And then there's I think it can be delayed until,
Correct,
right.
yeah, I read that. Your thoughts on it, David?
I think, it's a good agreement, the objective with any tax abatement, tax incentive, is for a school board to be held harmless. And that's what's being accomplished with this proposal. You're gonna be held harmless unless there was some severe miscalculation as to the number of employees. Now, what you are doing is you are putting a cap on the sharing of payroll taxes up to the loss of your property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So this doesn't happen a lot. In most cases, the loss of school board property taxes exceeds what the school board can gain from sharing payroll taxes. But with Medical Mutual moving here, with so many employees, the city's request is to put a cap on the loss of property taxes. And I would recommend that because I think long-term for the relationship between the city and school district, you're trying to be held harmless in the same manner as if Cleveland American Medical Mutual had gone ahead with this project without asking for city assistance.
Mm-hmm.
You're in no worse position.
Anybody else? The only other thing I would like to add is if I read this correctly, there is opportunity for internship in our school, 20 hours a week. So I believe I read paid
I have-
internships.
It's a little bit of a digress, but
Okay.
I have spoken with the Medical Mutual kind of liaison or representative, and he wants to, once they start really getting going, which probably is going to be another 6 months to a year, work on really a collaboration with the schools. Internships, but we also want them to come into the schools. We want them to talk to our kids in particular aspects, whether about finances, about insurance, et cetera, so that there can be a collaboration that hopefully it can groom some of our students for opportunities eventually in medical.
Wonderful industry.
So, yeah,
It's gonna be around forever,
yeah.
because we're all getting old.
Insurance?
All of us.
Anybody else got anything for David? David, anything else you wanna add?
It's actually, they're hiring like crazy now, and if
Right.
you get hired now, you go to Beechwood for 3 months, they're actually anticipating start moving in some quantities like
Yep.
like March,
A lot of
April.
jobs.
I mean, it's a positive development for your community, for this community, because, that's gonna be a impetus. They're moving in, other tenants move in, instead of that property remaining, being vacant.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
David, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
David.
you.
Appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year. Everybody else good? All right. We're gonna move on to comments from board members, board committee reports. We're gonna start with, who's our reader today?
Jim.
Jim. We're gonna start with Jim
Oh,
Oper
I'm
today.
reading? Okay.
I thought it was Bob.
Oh, no, no, no.
Yeah, let's get Bob, dude.
You guys keep sticking me with December all the time. Not to mention I did November.
I'd like to thank everybody that's here. Thank you, Mr. Chingari. Thank you to Mr. Verba.
I'll be reading from out
My
there.
players report is it's a little short, which I'm sure makes everybody happy. The Department of Education has come up with, in working with Ohio Means Jobs, for a readiness seal, which goes on which will go on the certificates that the students get when they graduate. It's a real interesting program they've come up with. It's a readiness seal, and what it's driven by the students. They have 3 mentors, one from school, which players can provide, one from work, which players can provide, and one from a community mentor, or even someone at their home district. They turn in an application, and they're judged on various, I should have made this thing bigger, various attributes: reliability, work ethic, punctuality, discipline, goes on and on, career management, critical thinking. What this does is they receive recognition at the players' senior awards. It's noted on the program, and the certificate and the seal is in their portfolio, and it's marked in the Ohio Means Jobs database. So when employers search for employees, the readiness seal will be there and they can see it. So they're gonna know that, you know, these kids have really been thoroughly vetted, for want of any other term. This can be applied to meet graduation requirements because of all the different graduation requirements we've have come up with, different pathways in the last few years. What this does, it's a win-win-win because it adds 0.75 to the Polaris report card under the career and post-secondary readiness. The associate district gets 0.75 on prepared for success metric, and you get enough of these, and automatically it's gonna boost your letter grade up, which we all wanna see that. The readiness seal will be introduced in their junior year. The seniors that have it now will be starting it, and they'll also, we're gonna try to accelerate them through to their senior year this year. They'll work with all of them, and it's a good program. It's a seal that's gonna be in their certificate that employers will note that these have been vetted by 3 mentors. The mentor has to agree to all these requirements that the kids have achieved these goals, these milestones. So it's a good thing. 2021 applications, there's 504 applicants from the different schools in the consortium. And the baseline has always been that a district is always kind of rated if they reach pretty much the neighborhood of 25% of their kids to go to vocational school. And once again, Brooklyn leads with 45%. Okay, we don't have the numbers, but we have the percentage. 69 juniors have applied to, or sophomores have applied for next year for juniors. All the programs are pretty much filled. The ones that are overfilled, those kids will be asked to, if they want to, there'll be some jockeying around because some of those kids will be asked to maybe pick another course because it's all first come, first served if you get in there and you apply. So let's see, where's my notes here? That's my, and.
How many schools are there again, 6?
Six, yep. And there will also be an open house on Martin Luther King Day, Monday, January 20th, for anybody that wants to come out and just take a look. You don't have to be a student, you can just come in and check the place out. I would also like to personally congratulate the honorees, Sugar Valley Conference, and the Fall Academic Honorees as well. And I get to go first this time. I'd like to thank Mr. Hennings for his years of service. You added a different voice to the board.
Yeah, there's a lot of voices that I
could definitely say that, and your insight on a few things that maybe we didn't have the insight that you did, based on your experience and all that, was very welcome.
Contracts, yeah.
And Rocky, thank you. You've been a big help. We had a couple downs, but mostly they were all ups, and it was an honor to serve with you. And I'm sorry to see you go.
Appreciate it.
I'm just going to leave it at that. Short and sweet.
Good job.
Finally, that's it. I could be reached at james.oper@bcshurricanes.org or at 216-4845-8195. And that's my report.
All right, on to Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Mr. Verba for his presentation. It's always great to see the numbers with the kids and how the extracurriculars are having an impact also in the classroom. I'm a strong believer that if the more active the kids are and involved they are, the more their academics we'll see more success there also. So thank you, Mr. Verba, for your presentation. Nothing personal, because I don't feel it's a personal matter at all. Mr. Chingari, I agree with you 100%. There's certain times and places for certain things, and as a teacher and teaching certain classes, if it's a political science class, I think it's fair game to any political, especially with what's going on right now currently in our country. However, in other classes, I have to say, in my opinion, I'm just one vote, as a very wise man always tells me. I feel that you need to keep your opinions to yourself. As you said, I said it last month and I'll say it again, our job is to teach kids how to be critical thinkers, not to tell our students what they need to think and believe. And I don't feel it's fair or right, and I know I work in a school and I know my feelings, political or otherwise, are to be kept at the door. It's not the place nor the time. I don't need to impose my beliefs on anyone else. I think it's rude and I think it's disrespectful. And to me personally, because it isn't a personal thing, I don't care where you lie on the matter. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter or if you are not, or if you're a Democrat, liberal, I don't care. It's not the time nor the place to be in the classroom. So I agree with you 100%. Said it again last month. Say it again. So the domestic violence meeting, I was not able to attend because we had a board meeting last Wednesday, so I do not have an update from that. I would like to thank Bob. Thank you for your 4 years of service. I remember we had a conversation right before you started, when unfortunately our stadium went up in flames, and you said, "Oh, you said this will be done in a month or two." You said, no, we're gonna get the insurance in here and it'll be done and everything will be taken care of, and we won't have to worry anything about the football season, because I remember our treasurer at the time, Todd, said, he's like, "I don't know if we're gonna be able to have our football games here this fall." You were like, "No!"
I could have just choked him.
Yeah, you're like,
I wanted to
"No,
choke him."
No, the insurance will be here and we'll have it just taken care of. And I said to you, remember, nothing goes fast,
Yeah.
nothing goes quickly, everything
I
in
think
the
you
board-
said 8 months before it'll even get looked at.
And
You were pretty close.
And I said, we'll be lucky if we get those games in. And I said, you'll just learn as you get on the board. Because I had to learn when I got on the board too, that it doesn't happen instantly. It's a process. There's steps that have to be taken. So I remember that conversation. I often think back to that because I think you learned a lot in these 4 years. I have never said, "Jesus, take the wheel," more than I have since you've been a board member. I would like to say that my motto
He's
is...
sitting out there, give him a chance.
Oh, no, it'll be okay. It'll be all right. But thank you for your service.
Thank
And
you.
you are definitely dedicated. In your honor, I think that we should propose at the next meeting that we change our mascot to just the Canes, because I know how
No.
much that would warm your heart.
No.
I know.
You better not let that happen.
I know.
Absolutely not.
Would warm your heart. We could even put in the agenda in honor of Robert Hennings.
no,
We'll
that is-
change it to the
no.
Canes.
He'll
I know.
come back and haunt you.
Yep.
If you bring pizza, we'll be
Yeah,
sending
yeah,
it.
yeah. If you bring pizza to our board meetings, yeah, we will. Or popcorn. You can make some popcorn.
Right.
We'll take that. Rocky Neal, I have to say,
You're not gonna cry now, are you?
I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. I tried to prepare something and could not get through. I could not get through that. I started on this board when I was 27. Never had been elected to anything.
How long you been here?
10 and a half years. I'm 38 years old. Thank you very much. I had never been elected to anything, never served in public office, and I can honestly say that you were my mentor. You said you'd take me under your wing. I was your training for dealing with Bob. I think you handled us both so well. I learned so much from you. I'm a better person because I can say that you are my friend. Steve and I are honored and blessed to call you and Sandy friends. This board and this school is better off because you have served on this board. You have made such an impact and done so many great and wonderful things. It has been my honor to be on this board with you. I will never forget all that you've taught me. And I know you're only a phone call away, so I don't think you're getting away from this because we will be talking because you'll still be my mentor, even when you're gone.
That's not a problem.
Yes, and I can't thank you enough for all your help and advice. But the thing that I thank you most for is your friendship. Steve and I can't thank you enough for the friendship that you've given me. And I know, as Mr. McMahon told me, he's like, "Bonnie, don't act like he's dying." It's true. He told me that earlier today. He's like, "Bonnie, don't act like he's dying."
Rocky, you get an honor. I get canes.
Yes, he does. Yeah, look at the honor you
He
get.
gets honor. I get
You get
canes.
canes.
Hey,
Thank you.
Bob, you had her for 4 years. I had her for 10.
And you're still here?
It is 10 and a half he's dealt with me. Thank you so much. You have truly been a great example of what a board member needs to be. And I appreciate everything you've done. With that being said, Sandy is still my favorite Neil. You never will be. Moving on to my other things that I have to say is I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, safe holidays. I hope everybody enjoys it with their family and friends, and I hope the kids have a very safe break. Relax. I know the finals are going on this week, so they're going to need that 2 weeks off. If anyone would ever like to speak to me about anything, I can always be reached at 216-406-4304. Mr. President, that's all I got.
Thank you. Appreciate everything. We're going to Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, thank Mr. Verba, he's left, for his presentation and honoring our student athletes. You know, this board made a decision years ago to increase the GPA required to play sports. It's one of the best decisions we ever made. But, you know, making a decision like that, just a blanket decision, wasn't enough. You have to go a little deeper. And thankfully, the administration saw to it that there was counseling, there was study groups to make sure, to ensure that our student athletes were being educated, and if they were deficient, that they brought their deficiencies out of suspension and were able to play sports. I think the sport aspect of the schools is what's missing in a lot of other educational components. You know, to be a well-rounded individual, you have to be involved in extracurricular activities. I see that in my own daughters. Mr. Chingari, thank you for bringing that to our attention. The only thing I can say is that, you know, the First Amendment protects the free speech, but I think it stops at the door of the school. And I think there should be, if there's not, a code of conduct for any staff members. I think it's inappropriate for an English teacher to bring that up. There might be a case example where they would, but I think for somebody to pontificate and use their classroom as a bully pulpit is the wrong thing to do. So I hope that that is addressed very soon with Mr. Kelber. So on a better, more positive note, I'd like to congratulate Principal Bill Wingler and his team and staff for pulling off a great positive attitude week this past week. Loved some of the great projects, saw it on Twitter, run by our students, along with the holiday concert that we reached out to the community for. I gotta say, that concert was one of the best I've attended all my years on the board. It was fantastic to see those kids play and play so professionally. Nice to see so many activities at our high school level that foster growth and experience positive messaging. As a parent and a board member, I've noticed that there's less, seems to be less, incidences and reporting of bullying, and that's always a good thing. Had the opportunity to attend the holiday concert. As I mentioned before, our student musicians keep getting better and better each year. We should all be very proud of our Brooklyn Band and Choir under the direction of Mr. Sullivan and Mrs. Cipriani. Just a reminder, I've spoken with Mr. Wingler about this, but many years ago, and I know I'm dating myself, back in the 80s, there is money available, funding available. I received a grant for $100,000 from the E.B. White Fund at the Cleveland Foundation to do a Cuyahoga County-wide high school newspaper that was run by the high school students from various high schools. They went out and solicited ads, got the ads, sold the ads. They wrote articles, they did music reviews. They did everything that I'm seeing that Mr. Wingler and Mr. Holk are doing with the Eye of the Hurricane. Now that we're in a digital age, it was very refreshing, I have to tell you, to see these kids write these articles, take the pictures. The pictures were very professional. I think the direction of this can grow into inter-district type of newspaper or like a digital newspaper. But I still would encourage all of the staff who do grant writing to look into the E.B. White Scripps Howard Fund at the Cleveland Foundation, because they do offer scholarships as well. And if not for direct funding for doing this activity, I think the students involved in this could benefit from scholarship in the journalism field. As I know, back in my experience, we had a staff member of the Cleveland Plain Dealer basically kind of managed behind the scenes, and she helped organize some journalism scholarships at Ohio University back in the day. So there's definitely an opportunity there. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Bonnie for her confirmation to be elected on the board for another
There's no
4
more
years.
recounts or flips or anything else, coin flips or anything else?
Jesus, take the wheel.
Truly, my goal in life is just get all of you to say it, one meeting.
And I just want to warn Rob and Mary, be prepared. I want to welcome both of you as one of our newest board members and express my profound thanks to both Rocky and to Bob for serving on the board, and for you, Rocky, serving as our board president. Your dedication and passion for education inspired me, and I gotta say, probably for many of us on this board. And I think Bonnie said it best, that you were a good mentor for all of us. I wish you much success and luck for all your future endeavors. I would like to take this opportunity to wish all of our citizens, their parents, grandparents, students, and staff a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I serve at your pleasure and thankful that we have such great supporters of Brooklyn schools. My work on the board is made much easier knowing that Brooklyn supports our children in our schools. We continue to work on improving our district with your help. I can be reached by text or phone at area code 216-978-1931. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. On to Mr. Hennings.
Okay. Get your popcorn out.
No crying, no crying.
First of all, Taylor, I need you to get that camera right down here. You don't see board members coming to a meeting with a blue tennis shoe and a gold tennis shoe on. Now that's some school pride there. I can't even claim that one. Blue and gold tennis
She told
shoes.
you your last meeting she was gonna do it.
You wanted me to do it at graduation, and graduation is not the time for me to be wearing two different color
I
Converse.
think it would have been, but you know.
No, it is not. I know you think the kids would have loved it, but there's a reverence there. I said your very last meeting, I will do it, and I fulfilled my promise.
Blue and gold tennis shoes, I'm telling you. That's awesome.
She's a true Cane, Bob.
Let's all remember, it's hurricanes. There's no canes, it's hurricanes. It's been like that for how long, Jim? Come on.
Forever.
70s, 60s, what? Come on. Next, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to serve on the board. I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't easy. When Jim says a voice, we had a lot of voices going on in those meetings, so I'm going to tell you right now, there was no yes people going on in any of our meetings. There was a lot of no's, and there was a lot of other things besides no's being said. So I know there's people walked by that office and heard quite a lot of spirited and boisterous conversations going on many levels. And that's just, sometimes it's the way it is. It's, you know, we're all going to have a different opinion, and we're all not going to agree. But in the end, we all realize that the kids came first, and the well-being of this school came first. If I had kids, it'd be a no-brainer. I would send them to this public school any day. I'll take this public school over any Catholic school. The amount of help that you will receive at a public school doesn't even come close to what a Catholic school can offer you. True. The amount of resource teachers that we have here, I think that's, what is that what it's called, resource teachers? Mm-hmm. The teachers will stay, if you want help, they'll stay. There isn't a teacher here that won't help you if you ask for the help, but you have to ask for the help. So I could go on and on about how great this school was because I was here in 1976. And I'm glad I can say I graduated here, as Mr. Slattery can say he graduated here. I truly believe if you want this school like it was, well, you have to get involved. You can't sit there and tell other people to get involved. You know, alumni have got to be involved. And for that, Rob, I'm glad you're here. Congratulations to both of you. I've said it to you on more than one occasion, but Mary Lee and Rob, you have a big job. It wasn't easy turning the school around to get it to where it is. It's definitely headed in the right track, but it's a constant work. It's a constant, you know, it's just, you got to keep things moving forward. Mr. Blom, you handed me my diploma some 35 years ago at the rec center. And I hope I did as well as any of the board members that you knew back then. So I hope I did everybody proud. Again, I can't say enough about this school. Sometimes you got to make hard decisions. It's not easy. You have to put people where they need to be for the kids' best interest. I'm very happy about bringing Bill Wingler and Brian aboard. They've done a fantastic job. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in the lower grades. I wish I would have, but being on the athletic boosters, I had a chance to be over on this side more than anything else, and I've seen how those two men have turned this school around. Barb, I think you were at the day when we all got installed. My one thing was Hurricane Pride, and you can walk down the hall now and there isn't a kid that isn't wearing some type of hurricane gear. Lady Canes, Junior Canes back there, Vern.
See, Canes, doesn't it sound so good?
It sounds so stupid, but he didn't want to pay the extra. He didn't want to pay the extra money for the Hurricanes, so
The couple letters
It just
cost.
rolls.
Yeah.
It just rolls.
So, thank you for all. Dr. Glykoff, thank you for allowing me to irritate you for about the first 2 years I was here, constantly in your.
Only the first two?
Well, once Bill got here, he pretty much got the full fronts of what I had to say.
We all did.
Things have definitely turned around here. I'm very happy with the way things are going. Sports is up, grades are up, teams are winning, and when they're not winning, we're being cheated, and I want to thank Mr. Verba for taking care of those. That's not easy. Mr. Verba has got truly a great passion for the job. He loves those kids, and he will do anything. I can give you one example of 6 cheerleaders were freezing at a game, and he gave them $10 and said, "Go get hot chocolate." Without even thinking twice. They go get some hot chocolate. Thank you for allowing me to work backstage. As a former stage rat, it was an honor to come back here and help on stage crew. What's really funny is when you see those kids forcing that screw in there and it's going backwards and not forwards, and you're looking at you're going, and you're just laughing, and they look up at you, what? Push the button. You got to screw it in forward, So, again, thank you all. I know it's not been fun, but I tried to make it fun with all the comments. So, good luck, and for the last time, Mr. President, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Andes. Mr. Seed, thank you for your insight, your information, for the update of, like I said, it's been 18 months, 2 years since we've had to deal with that, but appreciate your insight. Mr. Chingari, thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Slattery, Ms. Bowen, you guys will be fine. It's not as bad as they make it out to be. I'll be honest with
haven't had
you.
an argument with Bonnie yet.
Here's what I tell everybody. To be honest, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, 80% of the work that we do is pretty repetitive. It's the 20% that becomes where we need to do some work, where we have 5 different opinions. I'm a coach by trade, so I try to put people and we get them all together, and we get what we get, but you have to deal with it. So whoever becomes the president, good luck. Good luck, whoever it
Trying to say.
So, I can't say enough about the friendships that I've made. When you sit in a back room, we sit out here in front of the TV or camera, whatever you want to call it, and everybody says, vote yes, yes, yes. Believe me, there's meetings where, as we all spoke, we have difference of opinions. And some of those opinions are very
Spirited.
they can be, I'm gonna use spirited.
That's a good word.
Yeah, I'm gonna use spirited. So, just because they're all 5-0 votes or 4-1 votes, we do have difference of opinions, and they can be spirited. We'll leave it at that. I enjoyed 11 years. Prior to this, I coached, I was a varsity basketball assistant volunteer for 9 years here. I'm perfectly fine leaving. Would I stay? Absolutely, I would stay. But I got voted out. I don't know if anybody knows how this all works. I was up 3 votes on the day. Then Bonnie and I, they got the provisional ballots, and they called the following Monday. It was Tuesday, so I was up 3 ballots, and they said, well, we still got to count the provisionals. That's not going to be a week to 10 days. So got a call the following Monday, I believe it was, and said that, hey, you and Mrs. Barczyk tied I'm like, wow, that's pretty wild. Because I think there was about 30-some provisionals. So it's a significant amount. So they said, we're gonna have a coin flip Tuesday at 2 o'clock. That's okay, no problem. I'll be driving to Dayton to pick up my granddaughters for Thanksgiving, so call me. So we got on a 3-way phone call, we did a coin flip, it come up tails, and I lost. That's as simple as it got. So it is what it is. I will appreciate everybody. Bob?
I'm just down the street,
You know
getting
what,
a beer.
I'll start with Jim. Jim, I want to thank you. Jim and I started here probably within a few months of each other because we had a couple people leave. So if you notice in the resolution, I have some missing years because I would take off and leave because I get frustrated and move on. That's the way it works. That's the way it works with me. So Jim, I want to thank you.
Thank
for
you.
being a friend. The last 10 and a half, 11 years, it's been enjoyable. Mr. Sanger, we'll always, you know, we all, that's one thing about all of us, we brought something different to the table. You have 5 different people that have to communicate. So you have 5 different opinions. So now you have to blend everything together. So Mr. Sanger, there's a lot of good things that we all brought to the table. Jim brought the Polaris aspect, plus the critical thinking aspect. He was always the word man. We needed to fill in a word on something. Jim's very intuitive. Mr. Singer has a background in mortgages and property, so he always helped with those type of things. Bob, I'll be honest with you, Bob was very influential. I did want to, and I'll tell both of them, and I think I've told almost everybody here, that my first year and a half as president with these two, I was ready to walk. I'll be honest with you. I was like, these two, I gotta go. I said, I don't need this. But it took a little bit of time. Bob brought a lot of good things to the table. He's one spirited hurricane. I can tell you that.
What'd you say?
Spirited hurricane.
There you go.
He's a Brooklyn true and blue. He is really an honest to goodness good person. We do have to keep a check on some of the things he says.
God damn it, that's fine.
Jesus, take the wheel.
There you go. It took that to get you out.
But here's, you know, Bob's free spirited, says what he says, but when we got into some contractual language, Bob has a pretty good background working with the city and having some stewardship and all that stuff. So it really comes into play. Everybody has to use their expertise. And I think the board will be fine as everybody comes in and use their expertise. Again, I want you to remind you that I can get up there in 3 minutes too. So I can sit out there and I can go up there in 3 minutes and let you know what I really think too. And I've done it before, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
you have. You have.
Mrs. Barczyk, what am I gonna say?
Just don't cry.
No, I'm not gonna cry. Bonnie and I, I'll be honest with you, Bonnie and I have become real close probably the last 6 years. One of the rules when she first started, she was very hyperbolic. One of the rules I told her, she would go, ah, bah, 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 bah. She had like 6 different issues. I go, here's the way this is gonna work. We're not fighting 6 different issues. You pick 2. If you come with 6, they're all gone. You pick 2, all right? Now we got her to
Yes.
probably about none, right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while. So Bonnie and I have become very close, all right? We've become very close friends, always will be,
Yes.
just so you know that.
Yeah.
I appreciate all the nice things you've said, with the exception of you like my wife a little better than me, but that's okay.
Gotta be honest, gotta be truthful. And not to interrupt you, what you said, you are like an older brother to me, but I also said, because of now, you brought up the coin flip. I didn't even want the provisional ballots counted because, to me,
She was crying.
yeah, and I was crying because, to me, in order for me to win, for him to lose, is not a win for me. So, and that is truly how I feel about it.
Appreciate it. It's, her and I had, after the coin flip, we've had about 2 or 3 very emotional phone calls, correct?
Yes, you are like an older brother. You really are. You're
But
like
we'll
an
be
older brother.
fine. I'll always be around. I was, I've been in Winter Lane for 27 years.
My grandmother's
And
house.
And Bob's grandma's house, and I've been on Traymore, right outside of it, right outside of Brooklyn too, so. Anyway, with all that said, I do appreciate everything everybody's done for me. I will be around. I'm not gonna go anywhere. If I'm needed for anything, I will be the first one holding up signs at Levy Day. I don't have a problem. I usually make my own schedule. So if I have that opportunity, you can count on me to be outside the high school holding a sign for, my 12 hours or whatever it takes, So,
Those were long days.
Dr. Glykoff, I want to thank you for our relationship. It's been a learning experience. It's been a wonderful experience too. So,
Likewise.
it's been a good thing. It really has. I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere. Stroskins, it's only been a couple years, a year and a half or so. So we haven't really got to know each other, but enough to appreciate each other and appreciate what you've done for the district as well. So,
Thank you.
all I can say is thank to everybody for all their support too. A coin flip's a coin flip. My world's not gonna end over it. I have no problem with walking away, but I could come back tomorrow too if I was told to, if I needed to be. All right? So we're gonna move on to minutes of approval. Reader tonight, who'd I say it was?
Jen.
Resolved that the minutes of the November 19th, 2019, November 25th, 2019, and December 11th, 2019 Board of Education meetings be adopted, and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meetings are hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, could you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends the following students per the attachments.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Keep up the good work. I'm very proud of you.
Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the application for the following fundraising activity on file in the Treasurer's Office. High School Student Council, sale of candy canes and kisses, December 4th through the 16th, 2019.
Motion,
So
please.
moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
I hope that's Hershey kisses we're talking about.
That is correct.
Hershey's may have been a good word to
Yes.
add,
Yeah, right.
sometimes omitting things.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the attached Brooklyn City School District Reading Achievement Plan.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Anybody?
I think Mrs. Kalish's comments stand for themselves.
Thank you.
Great program.
Appreciate it. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that,
All right.
as noted thing, just so you know. If I can make this stupid thing go down. Oh, come on. Wait a minute, there we go, okay. Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby acknowledges and commends Mr. Rocky Neal for his service as a Board of Education member, whereas in November of 2006, Mr. Rocky Neal was first chosen to serve on the Brooklyn City Board of Education, and whereas on November 6, 2007, Mr. Neal was elected to a second term to serve on the Brooklyn City Board of Education, and whereas on January 8, 2012, Mr. Neal was voted by the Board of Education to serve as a board president, and whereas on November 3, 2015, Mr. Neal was elected to serve on the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education, and whereas on January 7, 2016, Mr. Neal was voted by the Board of Education to serve again as board president, and whereas Mr. Neal has worked as a mentor and motivator for several Brooklyn High School students, but while serving on the Board of Education, and whereas Mr. Neal has devoted 11 years to education and the well-being of all students and their success, and whereas Mr. Neal has devoted and invested countless hours of his personal time for the betterment of the school district, and whereas Mr. Neal successfully fulfilled his duties and responsibilities as board member and also as board president, and now, therefore, be it resolved by the Brooklyn Board of Education, we hereby express our appreciation, gratitude, and thanks for Mr. Neal's dedication and service to the Brooklyn City School District, to the community, and most of all, to our students.
Good.
Mr. Neal, on behalf of the Board of Education, the administration, students, teachers,
Thank you.
thank you for 11 years of dedicated
Wow.
service to Brooklyn City
That's
School
really
District.
nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's really nice. I've spoke my piece. I really do appreciate everything. I really do. Like I said, I started 9 years of volunteer work, basketball, that led into this, which I'll be out, and I do add one thing. When I first started, I had no idea how a school ran. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I knew your school and went about its business, but as far as the financial picture, I'll be honest with you, Mary Lee, Rob, it's probably like trying to read Chinese for your first 6 months, the financial part of it. It really is. It's a little tougher, but in the flow of things, so that's one thing I said, like, wow. I just come home, I go, I have no clue what they're saying, you know what I mean? But you learn those things as you go. It really is. It's a little tougher. But I do appreciate this. Is very nice. Thank you very much. Do we have to vote on this?
Motion made.
Motion.
Second, I'll take a second.
Mr. Hoskins, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Abstain.
Really?
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby acknowledges and commends Mr. Robert Hennings for his service as a Board of Education member.
As noted.
Whereas, no chance.
As noted.
Whereas on
Let's keep
November
going.
3rd, 2015, Mr. Hennings was elected to serve on the Brooklyn City School Board of Education. Whereas in December of 2015, Mr. Hennings was appointed to serve on the Polaris Board of Education for a one-year term. Whereas Mr. Hennings is a strong supporter of the Brooklyn athletic programs and the Brooklyn Music Department. And whereas Mr. Hennings, as a Brooklyn High School graduate of the class of 1982, exhibits hurricane pride in all his doings.
There you go.
And whereas Mr. Hennings has devoted 4 years to education and the well-being of students and their success. And whereas Mr. Hennings has devoted and invested countless hours of his personal time to the betterment of the school district. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Brooklyn Board of Education, we hereby express our appreciation, gratitude, and thanks to Mr. Hennings' dedication and service to the Brooklyn City School District, the community, and most of all, our students.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. I'll second it.
Nobody else wanted to second it.
Mr. Hennings, on behalf of your board, administration,
Thank you.
students, staff, parents, community, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
4 years. We've enjoyed it.
You sure? Thank you all. I'll be like Rocky. I said my piece, and we'll continue to help the school in any way. Like Rocky said, I'll be holding a sign for 12, 14 hours, and if you need somebody for your levy committee, I'm in the garage working on the car or fireworks, one of the two. Great.
Or Christmas lights.
Or Christmas lights, yeah.
Need new Christmas lights, Bob.
Huh?
Need new Christmas lights.
New? All right, that's not a problem. Go get some.
Can I have questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resignation of Brittany Hubble, Katz preschool teacher, effective December 23rd, 2019.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, Mrs. Hubble is resigning this spot as she takes on a preschool classroom, special ed preschool classroom hired by the ESC, so.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Kayla Patterson, Katz preschool general education teacher, at $26 per hour, effective January 6th, 2020.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
This is Brittany's replacement, Kayla. Kayla's got about 4 years' experience, I believe, in public preschool, as well as just recently received her degree from Kent State, I thought I said. Ashland, thank you. So,
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves a full-day increase for Mira Naruz,
no rose, yep.
school psychologist, from 3.0 to 4.0 days per week, effective January 6th, 2020.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, we're gonna increase her time. I think I've talked to the board a little bit about this. One of our school psychologists. We're gonna pay for this from the new wellness dollars, student achievement and wellness dollars that the state has done. So, but truly, we've had some need in terms of school psychologist service to add that. And she's done a really nice job at the high school so far. So,
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves Sean Sullivan, audio technical support, and Robert Black, concert band supervision for the 2019-2020 school year, with the provision that such individuals comply with all rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certification and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts.
Motion, please.
moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
these were a couple of supplemental teaching contracts that just fell through the cracks here, so getting these approved.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
5-4?
5-5, I
5-5.
think.
5-5.
5-5? Okay. Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the supplemental coaching resignation for Joshua Dress, ice hockey varsity assistant coach, effective December 2nd, 2019, per the attachment.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Gleichoff?
Yeah, unfortunately, Josh suffered an injury that is going to preclude him from being able to start the season as a paid assistant coach. So he had to resign. You'll see on a subsequent resolution that we've hired another assistant coach for a half, maybe for the first half of the year. It may become a full, depending on if Josh can return as a paid assistant.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2019-2020 supplemental coaching assignments, with the provision that such individuals comply with all Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertaining to proper certification and/or first aid training, and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts as noted.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
You'll notice the first two there are the hockey ones that I spoke of, and then we have some of our spring sport coaches already being approved. So,
Crazy. It's here before you know it. Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby accepts the following classified resignation. Ashley Johns, dishwasher, step 1, appendix B, effective January 10th, 2020.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
yeah, Ashley just started with us, but she's now taken on a different role, as you'll see in the subsequent resolution. So she'll resign a dishwasher and becoming a preschool classroom assistant.
Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Ashley Johns, preschool classroom assistant, step 1, appendix B, effective January 13th, 2020, 191 days, 4 hours per day, Monday through Thursday, 7:40 a.m. to 11:40 a.m., and on Fridays, 8 a.m. to 12 noon.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
As I said before, Ashley's resigned the other position, taken on this one.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Oops. Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the fourth amended certificate of resources for fiscal year 2020.
Motion,
So
please.
moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comment, Mr. Hoskins, anything?
There's some changes in our revenues, but most notably, the Title 4B. We had an extra $24,000 this year. I'd only budgeted 10 originally in the tax budget. We have the new fund, the 467 that Dr. Gleichoff spoke of earlier, that we're paying the psychologists out of. We need to have that added so that we can spend that money. And a couple other adjustments are one net 451 fund went down by $1,800, so that was an adjustment on the certificate as well. They are attached if you care to look at them, or do you have any other questions?
I looked at them earlier. Anybody else? Any questions? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2020.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments, Mr. Hoskins?
Again, now, this allows us to spend the money. I did have to increase the purchase services, supplies and inventory, or equipment and other expenses in the general fund by a marginal amount. The one net I decreased by the $1,800. Student wellness and success, we estimated out of the money we would receive, we'd spend about $85,000 of that. And then the Title 4A, which is a $599 fund, the increase of $24,383.01 for that. And Mrs. Kalish already has her eyes on spending that money, so. We'll be having new requisitions tomorrow for that.
As long as we're spending on the right thing, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. That's the key. All righty. Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the attached agreement on file in Treasurer's Office with Cleveland American LLC Revenue.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? This is the presentation that Mr. Seed gave us. So if you have any questions while he's still here, please address them. Or Mr. Hoskins, either way. Everybody's good?
Mhm.
Understandable?
Yep.
Think it's a positive thing for the rest of us and the city of Brooklyn, correct?
It's a tool used by most mayors.
All right,
Bring them in.
all right. Mr. Hoskins, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Is this yours, Rock?
No, this is mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, 6.4 is the announcement of the 2020 organizational meeting of the Board of Education in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 331314 and Policy 151 of the Board of Education. I have done my due diligence and canvassed the members of the Board of Education, and we have come up with a date for our organizational meeting of Tuesday, January 7th, 2020, 6 p.m. in the Treasurer's Office Conference Room, Board of Education offices at 9200 Bidoff Road in Brooklyn. I will be swearing in the new members after we have the roll call, and you're more than welcome to have people present to witness swearing in, but the three of you will be sworn into your offices down that evening. So that's the date and time, and we have the organizational meeting agenda started and prepared so we can get out, because it's going to happen right after we get back from break. So
Did you say 5:30, David? Because we had talked about
Said
5:30.
Or are we doing 5:30?
well, if you want 5:30, we can do 5:30.
We had talked about 5:30 the last time.
Okay, that. Can everybody make 5:30? Then officially it's 5:30 and not 6. All right. Again, that is Tuesday, January 7th.
Everybody's good on that? The texture reminds you?
Bob, can you still bring the pizza?
Sure.
That'd be great. We'll like that.
Just so you know, the backroom meetings, Bob, on Wednesdays when we had him, he brought pizza. So either you're gonna ask for Bob for a delivery.
Mary Lee or Rob will have to take over. They're the
We like our
rookies.
pizza a certain way.
Right.
Yeah, make sure it's the white sauce, you know.
Yeah.
They were all on a diet.
Rob, you can bring
Not Rob!
you can bring pierogies.
With pineapple on it.
Hey, Rob, just bring some of Barb's,
Pierogies.
Mary's pierogies.
Pierogies.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be sitting around with it. Where are we at here now?
7.1.
Nominations of the board president pro tempore. Resolve that, or who's reading? Am I still reading?
Oh,
mine?
I can read it.
Yeah, read it.
Resolve
You read it.
that,
You're in charge.
fill in the space, be elected as President Pro Tempore of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education for the 2020 organizational meeting.
We need a nomination.
We need a
These are
motion.
nominations.
Am I allowed to nominate anybody?
Still on the board?
I nominate Mrs. Barcheck.
Second.
Oh, don't cry, you'll be fine.
She'll be fine. What else we gotta do with this? She's nominated, then we gotta
pro
vote.
We have
temp.
to say yes.
Pro
This is
temp.
temporary.
Temporary president. I nominate Mrs. Barcheck Mr. Singer, second. We're gonna vote on it. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Yes, in a second.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. Mrs. Barcheck?
Abstain.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
For the last time, yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
And Mr. Neal?
Yes. Next one.
I think
What
that,
does that
I
That
think
was
that covered it.
7-2.
Election.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
It's
election.
kind of a,
Okay, I
Yeah.
got you.
yeah.
Where we did that.
This is forward
Okay.
correspondence.
Gotcha. All right, correspondence related action information, anybody?
I don't have any.
Oh, let me real quick here. Just so you know, we do have a reminder for 7 of us that December 27th, we do have a meeting, a special meeting to handle a few things and to educate incoming board members. December 27th, it's at 2 p.m. Everybody's okay with that? It's a 2 p.m., December 27th meeting?
I'll have to set my alarm.
Yeah.
2 p.m.
That's right, you're on a different time zone.
Retired life isn't working out for you, is
Okay,
it,
I
everybody?
have a question, Mr. to our
I
superintendent.
got too bored, I put on weight, I went back to work.
Mark, did the packages go to Rob and Mary Lee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Packages, and I've met with both of them, and we had good discussion, talked about all the stuff we got from OSBA as well, so I think I invite them to continue to do that. It's there's a lot there.
Oh, yeah. You have no
Mr.
idea.
President, where will the meeting be held?
Treasurer's conference room, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will have to announce
Just
that.
the beginning.
Any other business?
Don't have any other.
That's the only other thing is December 27th. Again, I want to thank everybody for the support that they gave me. I'll be around.
Yes, you will.
I'll be around.
Not getting rid of
I'm
us.
not going anywhere.
Nope.
All right, next agenda item, I'll gavel us out, so we're not gonna do any business after I read this. Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education enter into an executive session for the purpose of appointment, employment, or compensation of an employee, public official pursuant to RC 121.22G. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Ober?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. All right, meeting adjourned.